Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us here on another episode of the Around the Ballpark podcast. As always, my name is Mike Redman, right here alongside my co-partner, Darren Redman, co-host. And today we are talking Chicago Cubs baseball. And our guest today on the show is Jonah. And Jonah is going to tell us a little bit about himself. So much cool stuff to dive in. I don't want to spoil the pot. So Jonah, go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone watching, and we'll kind of dive into it.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, first of all. My name is Jonah Fialkow. Grew up in the north suburbs of Chicago. Went to school at the University of Illinois. Go Illini. And now, in my current day, I run a fantasy gaming startup. It's called Bracketology. We provide fantasy sports games, but for reality TV shows instead of sports. I also have been working as a beer and hot dog vendor at Wrigley Field for the past decade. Started in 2015 when I was 18 years old. It's my favorite thing in the world. And over the past year, I started making content about my job at Wrigley Field and sharing some stories of some of the older vendors and day in the life of a Wrigley Field vendor and who's got the best hot dog call. And people seem to really enjoy it. So I've kind of become a bit of a content creator as well over the past year. And I'm just excited to chat all things reality TV to baseball to TikTok videos with you guys tonight.
Awesome. We're very much looking forward to it. Yep. And Darren, before we kind of dive into all the good stuff, if you'll share a word about our sponsor.
Well, speaking of good stuff, this is great stuff. And just because tax season supposedly is over, it's not over. You know it. A couple of you out there, probably many of you, file an extension. Oh, I forgot about the 1099 that came in after, January 31st. And great question, Jonah Fialkow. Listen, serious question. Is that a 1099? Like, how does that work?
For my compensation?
Yeah.
I'm getting W-2s. So we don't get any hourly payment, but we do get commission and tips, which comes in the form of a check every other week.
We love that. So we'll get to talk about that later. But that the synergy, kids. Right. So in the heart of Palm Bay, Florida, where the ocean meets the sky, there's a place where tax worries meet their end. They go to die. So whether you need to file years of missing tax returns or current year return, or you just need some relief from a tax lien or a levy, because let's be honest, that happens. You take money out of your 429 or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got a lien or a levy. Nashville Tax Solutions is there to help solve the problem. Introducing Nashville Tax Solutions. They are your trusted partner in tax resolution industry. At Nashville Tax Solutions, we understand that the stress and confusion that tax problems can bring. I mean, it could affect our life, it could affect marriage, it could affect the day-to-day. That's why they're here to offer clarity, relief, and peace of mind, because that's important. The team at Nashville Tax Solutions of tax professionals are dedicated to providing personalized solutions tailored to your unique situation. It's just not a form, right? You all do things differently. Whether you're a vendor and some other things that you do, it's all different. So listen to what some people are saying about Nashville Tax Solutions. Recently I had the pleasure of talking with somebody who worked with Christopher Bennett, who is the owner of Nashville Tax Solutions. And I must say, what he conveyed to me was that Christopher's knowledge and his expertise in tax matters was truly impressive. He was able to provide clear and precise understanding about what was going on in his unique situation and helped him resolve the problem. Nashville Tax Solutions saved this individual from a financial nightmare that was threatened to him. And he was able to just get out of this problem that he felt he had. So they're just not experts in tax resolutions, they're compassionate as well. So don't let tax problems weigh you down. Contact Nashville Tax Solutions today and let them guide you toward a brighter future. So please call Nashville Tax Solutions, and that you can do that at 615-502-2250. Check out the website, NashvilleTaxSolutions.com, or email them at info@NashvilleTaxSolutions.com. Nashville Tax Solutions, where tax resolution is achieved. Say that 3 times fast. I dare you. And why would you? Go right ahead.
Yes. And just the last note on that, Christopher Bennett, a good personal friend of mine, great guy. please do definitely reach out if that is something you wish to do. But with that said, let's dive into the fun, good stuff here. So I feel like there's so much stuff to talk about. Let's just pick one. So let's get into, of course, let's get into Wrigley Field. I happen to have that background just by randomness. But so I thought today we kind of so of course you mentioned that you are for 10 years you worked as a beer vendor as well as doing hot dogs. So how does that kind of work? Like, do you like each night you kind of given this is your gig for tonight, or have you kind of made a transition to one or the other at this point?
Yeah, happy to go into that. So we actually all the vendors will line up in seniority order about an hour before the game starts. Got a little office, and there's a list of different products and sections that are available to sell that night. And we will line up based on how long we've been there. And even though this is my 10th season, I'm still probably 75% towards the back of the line. There have been vendors that have been doing it for 60 plus years at the very front. So for me, it's really a toss up what I get to sell that night. I'm thinking about the weather, the time of day, the potential attendance, which way the wind's blowing. And based on that, I will pick my product and what I'm going to sell. It's really quite an operation that goes in my head in my 15 seconds that I get to choose my product for that night.
Now, do you have to buy the product first at cost and then you sell it? Is that the way it works? Because I know that's what they did at Shea for years.
It used to kind of work something like that. So when we were in the cash days, we would get our first, let's say 24 beers for free. And then we'd use the cash that we earned from selling those 24 beers to buy the next load and so on and so forth all the way down to the end.
Sure.
Yeah. But there was never any risk of taking out beer and then being on the hook to sell it all. Like there was no risk if last call happened and you had 10 beers left. And now with everything being cashless, there's no more prepaying or paying for anything. They give us the product, we go out and sell it, and they get it all through the card machine. So it doesn't work like that anymore. Yeah.
So you have a scanner with you. You just there you go, done. I'm a big fan of cashless. That's good.
Yeah, so, nice and quick.
Oh, you need to share with me. Okay, it's April. It's early April. It's cold. You just started. You got the upper deck that's empty as all, and they gave you ice cream. Like, do you ever have one of those days? Walk me through those days where like, oh, I got pennants, cotton candy, and ice cream. Well, I got the three most horrible things ever.
Yeah, back in 2015, that happened a number of times when I had zero seniority. I think my third game ever, it was a 45-degree night, and I got lemon chill, which is not a product you want to sell when it's cold. It's a great product to sell when it's 85 degrees in August.
Yeah.
But I think I sold like 8 lemon chills the whole night, which I was kind of impressed with myself, honestly, for that. It really starts to make you a grittier vendor, especially when you're 18 years old and you're just getting into the job. But even on those nights, like you're still at Wrigley Field, you're still in the ambiance. It's really quite fun. And no matter how much I sell, I'm still having a great time at the ballpark, interacting with the fans, hopefully watching the Cubs hit a couple balls on the Waveland. But I mean, I'm getting paid to work at my favorite place in the world where I wrote my college common application essay about. So all things considered,
I got goosebumps. Seriously, it's awesome.
That's awesome. And I got to wonder, like with it being cashless now, has that taken a little bit of the stress off a little bit in terms of things, or was it a little bit better with the cash? Because like I imagine, like if I were you and I'm like in it and I'm loving what I'm doing, but I'd still get that anxiety, like, oh, they gave me a 50 and how much change I got to give back, and they're shouting, no, give me 12 back. And is it better now with the cashless in your position?
Yeah, I think once we figured out the machines, it's a lot quicker. There's no more of that, like trying to multiply 725 by 3 and then figure out how much change you owe someone and passing bills back and forth. So it is much faster now. All things considered, like it makes things move really smoothly, and it really opens up the ability for like to accept all forms of payment. We even do like tap to pay, which is kind of crazy. But I really do enjoy the cashless aspect of it.
So without giving away your specific secrets, I'm a big fan of process. I mentioned that on this podcast many times. You mentioned, we talked a little bit before we went on air. about you having a different pitch. You're just starting out. You have all of, the seasoned Grizzly veterans. They're looking at you like, oh, this kid's not going to last. Or who does he think he is? He's not going to get my spot. Do you go, hey, I'm here. I don't care who you are. Do you go loud? Do you go soft? I've seen guys, do you sing? I mean, I've seen people do it all different ways. Some do it really well, some not so much. What would you say to a good worker who's new?
Yeah, well, game one, I was selling soda in the upper deck. I didn't say a word. I held a bottle of Pepsi. I was walking the catwalk between the 3 and the 400 level, and I said nothing. And oh my, it did not go well. It takes a little bit of time to start to get comfortable. It's a weird process to yell hot dogs in front of 3,000 people in a few sections. It's a weird thing to do. And as an 18-year-old kid, it was just something I wasn't quite comfortable with at the very beginning. However, by the end of the season, I came into my own. You start to, I think your hot dog call develops as you sell more, you figure out what does well. And I noticed that for me, like, I'm just going to make a fool out of myself and be a ham out there. So I come up with funny catchphrases, and I'll often start out my calls with a sound that's like, it's like I'm saying hey, but it's more like an e, to like break the sound barrier. So everyone looks at me and they're like, what is this guy doing? And then I'll follow that with the product that I'm selling. So it'll be like hot dogs. And then they know I'm selling hot dogs. It also significantly helped with my confidence in public speaking, which I took a public speaking class freshman year at the University of Illinois and aced it because I had no fear speaking in front of people, in front of 20 students, when I was doing it the whole summer in front of thousands. So yeah, it develops as it goes on. And I think I just like to play into my personality. I'm a weird guy. I'm pretty goofy.
No, that's great. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it adds to the experience. Like the fan will go home and they're going to talk about that in the car, right? Because they're going to be stuck in the parking lot for 45 minutes and then go on the highway. And like, that's, if there's someone that sticks out, especially, that's definitely something, it's a lifelong memory for sure.
Totally. I mean, you got Mark, the singing vendor, who's singing, you need a nice cold beer here, a Bud Light, it's right here. We're gonna chug one right here, a wiser beer for me. And it's those sort of moments and interactions are things that I just wanted to start making videos about, is to highlight those people, and the interactions between the fan and the vendor, I think, is a really fun experience that sometimes might get overlooked.
That's great. I think that's.
Yeah, and I think as with the season ticket holders, I think more than anyone, of course, but or those that go to, like Darren had mentioned on the podcast before, he has a 10-game ticket plan for the Boston Red Sox. But like, when you go that often, you start to really appreciate every single position, not just on-field product, but you get to see those people. You look forward to seeing certain people, certain vendors, even the ticket taker, just whatever position it is. And so, like, for you, do you get to actually ever sit down to enjoy a game after a certain inning, or like, how does that work for you in terms of actually getting to watch on-field product?
Yeah, during the regular season, I'm mostly focused on making sure all the fans are hydrated and well fed, and also so I can make some money. So I'm not watching a ton of the game during the regular season, but I love the schmoozing with the fans while I'm selling to them. And also in like the big moments when, let's say, it's bottom 6, bases loaded, full count, everyone's standing and paying attention to the game anyway. No one's buying in those moments regardless. So that's when I get to turn around and watch those big spots as well. After we check out around last call, I generally will grab my meal and then try to watch the last inning or so. Hopefully hear Go Cubs go at the end of the top of the 9th. But during the postseason, there's a lot more of those more intense moments. And although we haven't had postseason baseball in a little bit at Wrigley, I mean, I got to work the World Series, and every other pitch was standing ovation, and I can't sell a bag of peanuts during that. So I got to participate with the fans and watch with them.
So that's an interesting, brings up an interesting thought for me, because again, I love process. So on split double headers, do you leave the ballpark? Do you just kind of chill in the locker room somewhere and just kind of take a nap? What do you do?
This is very timely because we had one yesterday.
Perfect.
We had a rain out on Thursday. We had a split doubleheader against the Marlins yesterday. I live within walking distance to the stadium. So I headed
very
home
good.
and hung out for an hour and a half before I had to check in and do the product draft before game two. But it's a good time for like a lot of the vendors who don't live within the area. They'll stay, they'll hang out, they'll play cards, they'll go get a meal together. So it's a really good opportunity to bond and just hang out with the rest of the crew.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you dive in a little bit on before we kind of go to the next topic here? So you mentioned like, the social media presence in terms of what you do, because that's I think that's unique to last year, right? Where that really started taking off. Can you kind of dive into that a little bit?
For sure. So I also sell concert merchandise for concerts at Wrigley and sometimes at Soldier Field. And I did one at the United Center at the very end of 2022 for Harry Styles.
Mhm.
I made a one-off like day in the life of a Harry Styles merch vendor video on TikTok, and it got like 4,000 views. And I was like, huh, maybe there's something here. And it was kind of always in the back of my mind that that's the kind of content that people might enjoy. And again, like I love my job so much, and just to be able to share that online with people has been really fun, and that's one of the motivations why I did it. Having said that, the last event of the year was this concert, so I had to wait a whole 6 months until opening day at Wrigley in April of 2023 to start making videos. So I started like a week before the 2023 baseball season, posting a video every day, doing some Q&A, some funny stuff around Wrigley. And by opening day, I got recognized at the game 3 times, which I thought was kind of odd that people already were
How great
seeing
is
my
that?
videos. It was crazy. It was absolutely nuts. And then on the second game, I made another day in the life video, and it got 500,000 views overnight. And someone from the Cubs front office reached out to me the next day, and someone from local news did. And then I was really like, okay, there's something here,
Mhm.
and just started posting a whole bunch. And now I get recognized, 15 to 20 times a game. People are asking to take photos with me, which is
That's
just
great.
such a cool
Yeah.
experience. And I've got some content ideas for this season as well that I'm going to start getting into. I just got to get my vending footing because we're only 9 home games into the year. So it's we've got some cool stuff coming up too, I think. So we'll see what happens.
So talking about these, and I love how creative you are and the thoughts that are going into these things. And talk a little bit about this bracketology reality. I want to hear all about it because it sounds so good. I think of the people I live with. Well, when they start watching some reality television, and I'll give you a little inside baseball, no pun intended on one thing. Um, but talk about that. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. So I think everything that I try to get involved in is centered around connecting people. And ultimately, I thought there was a big gap in the reality TV fandom space with just extra ways that they can connect with each other and to the show and to the contestants. And I'm a huge fantasy sports player. And I was not a massive reality TV fan, but I had seen a couple episodes of or seasons of The Bachelor. And my best friend met a woman who created something called Batch Bracket, which was our predecessor. It was a fantasy football style platform for The Bachelor only. And in 2021, after hearing what she was building with her friends, I thought that it could be expanded into, more of a reality TV fantasy home for more shows than just The Bachelor. And I thought it was a really cool way for reality TV fans to get more engaged with the show and their friends. So we partnered up with her in May of 2021. And then in October of 21, I left my job in sports marketing to become the first and only employee and CEO as we rebranded to Bracketology.
I
We
think that's
launched
great.
it was a lot of fun. We launched a new web app, started launching fantasy games for Survivor, Big Brother, RuPaul's Drag Race. We've raised some money over the past couple of years. And then
As you
Caitlin,
should.
who's the original founder, she is now full-time at Bracketology. So it was always one of her dreams to work on this full-time. So now it's me and her running the ship. And we put out a mobile app 3 months ago, and we've had 55,000 downloads. And we're pretty excited about what 2024 has to offer. But it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of summers of 9 to 5 working on Bracketology, and then heading over to Wrigley to sell some hot dogs so I can pay my rent.
Now, on there, is it peer-to-peer kind of betting? Is it just, how does it work?
Yeah, so right now we don't actually offer paid contests. So it's entirely
Right.
free to play. There's no paid contests. People are betting their friends on the side, just
That's
like you
my
would
point.
fantasy
Yeah, so
football.
there's
Yeah.
that good, fun, again, you mentioned a communal thing where, hey, you know, we could bet up pizza, bet up beer, whatever the case may be. Just, you know, water cooler, we'll use that term.
Exactly.
Talk the next day. I think that's great.
That's
Yeah,
great.
and there are offices that are making fantasy leagues for their coworkers. There's friends and family that, you know, might live across the country and are using it to stay connected. So it's always nice to get messages from people that use the platform that say that it's helped them stay connected to their friends and other fans of the show.
So do you find yourself now that you're in that watching a little bit more reality TV than you used to, or are you still kind of like on the sports side on your end?
Oh no, infinitely more. Reality TV has taken over my consumption because it's my job now. So I actually, for one of our game types, you choose a team of contestants each week, and then depending on what they do and say during the episode, that's how your team gains or loses points. So I'm sitting in front of the TV with my Excel spreadsheet of our 50 rules for the season, and I'm like, okay, at minute 15, Jen said the word connection. At minute 27, Daisy was seen eating on camera. And I'm tracking all this, posting the scores to the site, you know, a couple hours after the episode ends. I'm watching new shows that are popular to start to ideate how we can gamify them when we launch fantasy games for those shows. So I've never seen MasterChef before. We're about to launch fantasy games for MasterChef for next season that comes out in a month. So I'm watching previous seasons of MasterChef to try to get an idea of what are some good rules for the show. So I unfortunately, the only sports I really have time to watch now are Cubs away games. And everything else is kind of taking a backseat to the reality TV in terms of my screen time consumption.
Yeah, I can imagine like
that's called
'cause for
having a
me-
job. That's you got a full-time job. That's all that is.
Yeah,
Totally, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I could see someone kind of reaching out to you in like mid-April. Hey, Jonah, let's go get a drink sometime, or let's get. All right, I'll see you in November. Maybe the second Tuesday in November. Like
that is spot on. I have my Google Calendar runs my life, but that is like people will be like, oh, like do you want to play on this intramural volleyball team on Thursdays at 7? I'm like, I can't. Bachelor in Paradise is Thursdays at 7. Like, sorry. So yes, that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah. So what I was going to mention was my daughter. She was on Desperate Housewives of LA or whatever it is, Orange County, whichever one was just on. Yeah, she was on an episode this past year. So got a little inside baseball. Yeah, they visited a vineyard, and my daughter was serving the wine, and you know that whole thing, which is kind of cool.
Nice little cameo spot.
Oh, 100%. And you mentioned about people noticing you, right? The next day, she didn't mention it at all to her friends, you know, and hey, we saw you, you know, that kind of thing for like weeks, you know, afterwards. It's interesting and fun.
That's interesting. So one thing, so I actually haven't consumed too much, but I am not the baseball level, but Big Brother to me is like my guilty pleasure. Like I watch that like you wouldn't believe. I think it's the only show left that I watch when it's on. Like everything else, like, oh, I can DVR, oh, I can whatever. But like for me, that's, I don't know what it is. And so every season we'd meet with a friend or two, we'd go by their house, swim in the pool, watch the episode. And it's funny like how certain people have certain traditions. Like you go over there, you dare not speak about the episode while it's on. You wait till commercial, and then it's a free for all. So it's like you have to pregame, postgame, but don't you dare speak when so and so is competing for head of household or power veto or something. Yeah.
We're also very, very anti-spoiler here at Bracketology. It's the exact opposite of what we strive for. We're very big on integrity of people making picks without knowing what happens. But the beauty of Big Brother is that it's live every Thursday, so people don't know what's going to happen in those live evictions.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
That's excellent. So so looking on the on-field product this year, the Chicago Cubs, again, like you said, you don't get to watch too much. You're pretty much, because I believe the beer sales end in the seventh inning, or is it pushed to the eighth? Or
yeah, end of seventh for night games, end of eighth for day games. We didn't change anything for the pitch clock. That's how it's always been at Wrigley.
Okay, so yeah, so you don't get to watch too much on-field product, but like, where do you see the Cubs finishing this season if you had to just right now, like dart of the wall? Because looking at the division outside of St. Louis, and I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't know which way it's gonna fall. I know
I'm pretty confident
now.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident that we're gonna win the Central. I feel good about it. I don't think we have the strongest division. I think our ball club, we're hitting the ball well for contact. We're not striking out a lot. We're walking a lot. We got a couple guys that are injured. I think like we just need to figure out the back half of our bullpen. And if Justin Steele can come back healthy and Kyle Hendricks can figure it out, because I know he's been pretty disappointed with his start to the season. I think we got a good team that can take the NL Central. So that's what I'm hoping for. My goal this year is to work one home playoff game at Wrigley Field. That would be, I miss it. And I'd really like that back.
Yeah, I imagine that. I think I would agree. I think that other teams may be a little bit more streaky. Like we've already seen, we saw the Pittsburgh Pirates at like 5-1, and now they've kind of sunk back to reality. I think the Reds will have those spots here and there. And Milwaukee's playing a little bit better than I think they're supposed to be playing. You would think you were going to see that drop off with Corbin Burns gone, but really I haven't seen that. But with Chicago, I feel like you said, get that closer situation straightened out. Because sometimes, I mean, like we look like we're Mets fans, and we look Darren and I, and we look at Edwin Diaz, and he's great. He was injured, but like before he had the year that he had, it was a little bit rough there for a little while. And so, but you stick with it. You keep showing up every day and putting the work in, and things turned around for him, and now it's like they kind of look the other way if he does have a little bit of a bad outing. But
the Mets had a dreadful first couple of weeks, and then seemingly started to turn it on a little bit. So
yeah,
maybe there's hope there.
And you know how it is too. You catch teams at certain times, and it's math, right? You just have to get more wins at the end of the year than somebody else. How you do it doesn't really matter.
I had one of the older vendors mentioned this quote to me. He said, 100 games of the season are irrelevant. Every team is going to play the same 100 games and win and lose half of them. It's what happens in the other 62 that really sets the teams apart. Unless this year, except for the White Sox, I think they're going to lose 120 games. You could put that on the record. But ultimately, it's really, these early games in April are no fan should really have a freak out quite yet.
No, and I feel like this is going to be the first year teams like the White Sox and the Rockies we're going to start seeing the attendance start because usually they just show up no matter what. But there's a level of like at least be at this level, and both those teams right now are just they're not showing up at all. So, what are your thoughts on as we start to wrap up here and whatnot? Like, what are your thoughts on some of the pitch clock and the shifts and the for me, the worst one is the ghost runner and the extra innings. I absolutely cannot stand that. I understand for the casual fan, they want to go in the bottom of the ninth inning. They don't want to be there for 15 innings.
Go home. Just go home.
Yeah, we don't want you there anyway. Just go.
Why take money out of Jacob's pocket? Jonah's pocket. Why are you taking money out of that man's pocket? Why are you rushing up the game?
I just seeing final 10, final and 10, final and 10. I'm like, I want there to be an 11. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, because you're there every day. Like,
I think I like a lot of the modifications that have been made because from a younger generation standpoint, like I love baseball, and even these small changes isn't going to affect my love of it. But I think it could help younger people whose attention spans are smaller, who are, scrolling through TikTok, watching 15-second videos. They can't sit through a 3-hour, 45-minute baseball game. In person, I want a baseball game to last 19 hours. But when I'm watching it on TV or a casual fan trying to get into it, I think what is happening is good. And I don't have a problem with the ghost runner, actually. The way I framed it in my head is that, hockey overtime is 5 minutes of 3-on-3. Like they want the game to end. Then it just goes into a shootout. I don't necessarily think that in the regular season, having a ghost runner is a bad thing. And I think it does make it more interesting, and there's more strategy that goes into the game of how to play it. I personally think that every team should try to advance that runner over to third and knock him in instead of just swinging away. I think one run would get it done a lot of the time. Anyway, I'm deviating from my initial thought, but from a pitch clock standpoint, and from a vendor standpoint, I don't think it's affected us a ton yet, because I think people are starting to realize that if they get up now to, daddle around concessions and go to the bathroom for an extended period of time, they're going to miss a lot of the game. So my hope is that they let us do our jobs. we will serve you. Just stay seated, watch as much of the game, take it in. And then in 2 hours and 25 minutes, you are out of there after you see all the action and less of, who is it? Pedro Baez for the Dodgers taking a minute between every pitch. Like, I like that that's cut out. I don't love the shift rules. I think that any team should be able to strategically play themselves in a defensive positioning
I agree with that 100%.
as they see fit. But aside from that, I think the changes have been good for the game.
So now there's no truth to the rumor that I held the 10 commandments for Moses. I'm that old, but I hate all the changes. They are terrible. So first of all, the time in between, an umpire could tell the pitcher, hey, hurry up, let's go. You know, you have Angel Hernandez, who's a horrible umpire. You know, you have very good umpires that could kind of move the game along. You have a game where you have your best pitcher out there and he's pitching a complete game, though that never happens anymore. But if the case, and then all of a sudden you're going to put, you know, a ghost runner on second base and end the game that way. Disgusting. I understand that in hockey, because, well, then again, I didn't monetize in hockey, but you won't. But so that just changed. So you add. See, this is what people don't understand. Hockey regular season used to end in a tie, so they added the 3-on-3 5-minute overtime, and then a shootout. It was added. In baseball, they took away. And why are you taking away from something that worked fine? You had pitchers back then, Ferguson Jenkins, an old school Cub or whatever, they'd pitch 10, 11 innings. Then a ghost run. What is this? You know, this nonsense. And I agree about the shift. And you know, why do you change the rules? These, and by the way, it's not just kids. You know, people want to say the kids on TikTok. You know, these adults, women and men, they want to go home and they want to see work. They want to see a conclusion. Why? Where you going? Where you going? You're already home. You're going to, instead of sitting in front of the TV with your TikTok or your spreadsheet, you're going to go in another room with your spreadsheet. It's not going to change. It's the culture. Major League Baseball could sell more commercials anyway. You could, you know, Jonah could push more product. I don't get it, but it is what it is. I still love the game. But here I got the most important question you're gonna hear all night. You ready?
Hit me.
All right. No, there's no hitting because that's illegal. But okay. So you and a bunch of your friends, you're going to binge watch a show. Doesn't matter what the show is, and for whatever reason, there's the four of you, and you're really tight. Like these are your friends, but one of your friends brings somebody that you know, okay, but you don't really know, but they're invited. So you're going to binge watch your show. And for whatever reason, you're going to eat cereal, right? So whatever the show is, right? We're going to watch The Last of Us season 2. We're going to binge watch, and we're going to eat some cereal. This person you don't really know pours in the milk first. Are you the guy that says something right away? Do you say something to your friend? Do you not say anything at all? I've gotten these great different answers on this. And Jonah, break the tie. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm gonna just very bluntly ask him if he's a serial killer.
Thank you.
Pun intended. Pun intended.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they're for sure gonna get called out for doing that and get a little side eye. However, I will say I will not. I accept them if they pour the milk in
so
first,
do I.
but I will be outwardly judging them for doing that from the jump.
I will accept them because I'm a big you do you kind of guy, but I'm going
Exactly.
to chirp you to death. What are you doing? There's rules, right? There's rules.
If you're coming into my house, you're pouring the cereal first.
Thank you. That's all I'm saying. And just real quick about the White Sox. On my other podcast, I had Mike North on, recently, who covered the Cubs for years. And he really talks about how the White Sox are in trouble. I mean, nobody cares.
They're really, really in trouble. And like, I feel a lot of the guys that work at Wrigley also are vendors at White Sox. Mm-hmm. And I feel really bad for them because there are no fans to sell to. So it's affecting them too. And I'm not a Sox hater. I would
Right.
like for the Sox to be good. I want there to be competitive baseball on the north and south side of Chicago, but they are in serious trouble. And the owner of the Sox also owns the Bulls, and that's a whole nother thing. Yeah. So
But they did not even show up against Miami.
no, and I went to that game against the Hawks, game 1 of the play-in, and the United Center was so electric. Like, the city is craving a quality product.
Yep.
And thank
It's a
goodness
great city.
It is a great city.
Yep.
And at least the Cubs have been performing over the past decade.
Yeah. And so the last 60 seconds here as we tie up, to me, I'm actually a big wrestling fan as well. Been from day one, just found out it wasn't real yesterday. No, but so
what do you mean? It's not.
Sorry, bro. But to me, watching the product as often as I do, probably a little bit too often, Chicago is the best crowd of any city. Maybe outside of like Montreal was like right there with them, but like Chicago brings it every single time. I don't know if you are a CM Punk guy, if you know about CM Punk, but like with WWE, he just brings Chicago every single event, every single production that WWE puts on. It's just electric from home. You feel like you're in the building from your couch. Like it's awesome. It really makes a difference when the crowd's just into every little thing from start to finish. They don't take a break here. It's no quiet time, you know. So this has been awesome, Jonah. I'm looking forward to see again. I really think the world of the Chicago Cubs this year. I think they're going to be the 2024 team that knocks the Dodgers or the Braves out again, like usual. I don't care if they have 145 wins.
Let's
the Cubs
manifest
are be the team this year that kicks them to the curb. Sorry, Dodger fans, but they ain't getting past the second round. So until next time, guys, we'll see you around the ballpark.